The streetlights flickered on as I stood frozen on the cracked sidewalk, staring at the bueno, the man who used to trail behind me like a shadow. Ethan, my best friend's little brother, wasn't the scrawny kid with braces anymore. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that burned through me like they held a secret I'd been too blind to see. And then he said it, his voice low and steady. "I've wanted you since I was 16. Caleb. Always have." My heart slammed against my ribs. Ethan Carter, the kid who used to beg me to let him tag along to the arcade, was standing in front of me, all grown up, with a jawline that could cut glass and a confession that turned my world upside down. We were outside his sister Mia's house in our sleepy Ohio suburb, the same place we'd spent countless summers tossing a football or sneaking beers from her dad's fridge. But tonight, the air felt different, electric, heavy with something I couldn't name. I'd come back to town for Mia's engagement party, expecting nothing more than a weekend of nostalgia and cheap wine. I hadn't seen Ethan in 5 years. Not since I left for college in Chicago, and he was still a gangly high school sophomore. Back then, he was just Mia's annoying little brother, always hovering, always watching me with those big, curious hazel eyes. I never thought twice about him. Not like that. But now, at 22, he was someone else entirely, someone who made my pulse race and my thoughts tangle. "Caleb," he said again, stepping closer, his sneakers scuffing the pavement. "You're not saying anything. Did I just ruin everything?" His voice cracked, just enough to betray the nerves behind his bold words. The vulnerability in it hit me like a punch. This wasn't a game to him. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. How was I supposed to respond? I'd spent my whole life thinking I knew who I was: steady, dependable Caleb, the guy who dated girls like Sarah in high school and never questioned it. But Ethan's words, his closeness, the way his breath hitched as he waited for me to speak it, stirred something deep inside me. Something I'd buried so long I didn't even know it was there. "Ethan," I started, but my phone buzzed in my pocket, shattering the moment. It was Mia, probably wondering why I hadn't shown up at the party yet. I glanced at the screen, then back at Ethan, whose face had fallen slightly, like he was bracing for rejection. "I need a second," I muttered, stepping back, my head spinning. He nodded, shoving his hands into the pockets of his jeans. "Yeah, sure. I'll be at the house. You know where to find me." He turned and walked away, his silhouette fading into the dusk, leaving me alone with the weight of his words. I stood there for what felt like forever, the cool September air biting at my skin. My mind raced back to those summers with Ethan, how he'd light up when I let him join us, how he'd linger a little too long when we said goodbye. Had I missed something all those years? Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see now? Because the Ethan standing in front of me tonight was nothing like the kid I remembered. By the time I made it to Mia's house, the party was in full swing. Music spilled out from the backyard, and fairy lights twinkled above the patio where Mia was holding court, her fiancé James at her side. She spotted me and waved me over, her smile as bright as ever. "Caleb, you're late. You jerk," she teased, pulling me into a hug. "Where's Ethan? I saw him head out earlier." "He's around," I said, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. She raised an eyebrow but didn't press. Mia had always been good at reading me, but I wasn't ready to explain the storm in my chest. The party was a blur of small talk and clinking glasses, but my eyes kept drifting to Ethan. He was across the yard, leaning against the fence, laughing with some old high school friends. Every now and then, he'd glance my way, and our eyes would lock for a split second before one of us looked away. It was torture, this dance of avoidance, and I hated how much I wanted to cross the yard and pull him aside, to ask him what the hell he meant by always. As the night wore on, I found myself slipping out to the front porch, needing air, needing space. The stars were sharp above the quiet street, and I leaned against the railing, trying to make sense of it all. I wasn't ready for what Ethan had said, but I couldn't deny the way my body reacted to him, now the way my skin prickled when he was near, the way my thoughts kept circling back to his voice, his eyes, his impossible confession. The door creaked behind me, and I turned to see Ethan stepping out, a beer in his hand. He looked hesitant, like he wasn't sure if he should stay or go. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. I swallowed hard. "I don't know. Man, you dropped a bomb on me out there." He winced, but he didn't back down. "I didn't mean to freak you out. I couldn't keep it in anymore. Not after all this time." "Ethan," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're Mia's little brother." Your eye stopped, because the words felt wrong. He wasn't just Mia's little brother anymore. He was Ethan, standing there with a heart laid bare, and I didn't know how to handle it. He took a step closer, his eyes searching mine. "Tell me you don't feel it. Caleb, tell me I'm wrong, and I'll walk away. I swear." I wanted to say it. I wanted to tell him he was crazy, that this was a mistake, that I wasn't, what? Gay? Bi? Something else I hadn't let myself name. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I just stood there, my heart pounding, as the distance between us shrank to nothing. The air between us was thick, charged with a tension I could barely breathe through. Ethan's eyes held mine, steady and unflinching, and for the first time, I saw the weight of his secret, the years of wanting, of waiting, of hiding. I wanted to run, to laugh it off, to pretend this wasn't happening. But my feet stayed rooted to the porch. "I can't just do this," I finally said, my voice rough. "Ethan, you don't know what you're asking. Mia, your parents. Every Oneth'd lose it." His jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "I know exactly what I'm asking. Caleb, I've thought about this for years. I've thought about you for years." He stepped closer, so close I could feel the heat of him, smell the faint cedar of his cologne. "And I know you're scared. I am too. But I'm done pretending I don't feel this." My chest ached. He was right, I was scared. Scared of what this meant. Scared of what it would do to my life, to Mia's trust, to the version of myself I'd built so carefully. But the way he looked at me, like I was the only thing that mattered, made it impossible to turn away. "I need time," I said, the words tasting like a cop-out. "This is a lot." Ethan nodded, his expression softening. "I get it. I'm not going anywhere. But Caleb," he paused, his voice dropping to a whisper, "don't make me wait forever." He turned and went back inside, leaving me alone with the night and 1,000 questions. I stayed on the porch until the party started to wind down, my mind a tangle of guilt and desire. By the time I slipped back into the house, Ethan was gone, and Mia was too busy with her guests to notice my distraction. The next morning, I woke up on Mia's couch, my head pounding from too many beers and not enough answers. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies your thoughts until they're deafening. I grabbed my phone, half hoping for a text from Ethan, half dreading it. There was nothing. I found Mia in the kitchen, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone. She looked up and grinned. "You look like hell, Caleb. Rough night." I forced a laugh. "Something like that. Where's Ethan?" She shrugged. "Probably sleeping in. He's been weird lately. All quiet and brooding. I swear, he's not the same kid who used to steal my snacks." I nodded, my throat tight. If only she knew. The day passed in a haze of small-town errands, helping Mia pick up decorations for the wedding, grabbing lunch at the diner where we used to hang out as teenagers. Every moment, I was hyper-aware of Ethan's absence, like a missing piece of the puzzle. When he finally showed up at the diner, his hair still damp from a shower, my heart did a stupid flip. "Hey," he said, sliding into the booth across from me and Mia. His eyes flicked to mine, just for a second, but it was enough to send a jolt through me. "Hey," I managed, focusing way too hard on my fries. Mia, oblivious, launched into a story about her fiancé's terrible taste in centerpieces. Ethan listened, nodding along, but I could feel his attention on me, like a current under the surface. When Mia got up to take a call, the air shifted again, and Ethan leaned forward. "You thought about it yet?" he asked, his voice low. I swallowed. "Ethan, it's not that simple." "It could be," he said, his eyes fierce. "If you'd let it." Before I could respond, Mia came back, and the moment slipped away. But Ethan's words stuck with me, burrowing into my thoughts as the day wore on. By evening, we were back at Mia's, helping her sort through old photos for a wedding slideshow. Ethan sat across the room, his laughter easy but his glances heavy. Every time our eyes met, it was like a spark igniting something I couldn't control. Later, as we cleaned up, Mia stepped out to grab pizza, leaving me and Ethan alone in the living room. The silence was deafening. He stood by the window, staring out at the darkening street, and I couldn't take it anymore. "Ethan," I said, crossing the room, "what do you want from me? Really?" He turned, his expression raw. "I want you to stop running from this. From us. I know you feel it too. Caleb, I saw it last night. On the porch. You can't lie to me." My breath caught. He was right, I couldn't lie. Not to him. But admitting it meant tearing down everything I thought I knew about myself. And what happens when Mia finds out? When your parents do? When this whole town talks? "I don't care about them," he said, his voice fierce. "I care about you. I've always cared about you." The room felt too small, the air too thin. I took a step toward him, then another, until we were inches apart. His eyes searched mine, and for a moment, I thought I might kiss him right there, in his sister's living room, with the weight of the world pressing down on us. But then the door swung open, and Mia's voice cut through the tension. "Pizza's here," she called, oblivious to the storm brewing between us. Ethan stepped back, his jaw tight, and I knew we were far from done. The next few days were a tightrope walk. Ethan and I circled each other, caught in a silent push and pull of longing and restraint. Every glance, every brush of his hand as we passed in Mia's kitchen, felt like a dare to cross a line I wasn't sure I could come back from. Mia's wedding planning kept us busy, but it couldn't drown out the noise in my heater the way my body reacted every time Ethan was near. One night, after a long day of helping Mia with seating charts, Ethan caught me in the hallway, his hand grabbing my wrist. "Meet me at the lake tonight," he whispered, his voice urgent. "Midnight. Please." I should have said no. I should have walked away. But the look in his eyes, equal parts hope and desperation, made it impossible. "Okay," I said, my voice barely audible. The lake was a 20-minute walk from Mia's, a quiet spot where we used to skip rocks as kids. When I got there, Ethan was already waiting, sitting on the dock with his knees pulled up, the moonlight casting silver across his face. He looked up as I approached, and the relief in his smile hit me harder than I expected. "You came," he said, standing. I said I would. I stopped a few feet away, my hands shoved in my pockets to keep from reaching for him. "Ethan, we need to talk about this. Really talk." He nodded, his expression serious. "I know. I needed to see you away from everyone else. Somewhere it's just us." The lake was still, The only sound the soft lapping of water against the dock. We sat side by side, our shoulders almost touching, and for a while, neither of us spoke. Then Ethan turned to me, his voice low. Do you remember that summer when I was 14? You and Mia took me to the fair, and I got sick on the Ferris wheel. I laughed despite myself. Yeah. You puked all over my shoes. He grinned, but it faded quickly. That was the first time I realized I liked you. Not just as Mia's friend, but more. I was so embarrassed. But you just laughed it off and bought me a soda. I think I fell a little in love with you that day. My chest tightened. Ethan, you were a kid. That was just. It wasn't just anything. He cut in, his voice sharp. It was real. It's always been real for me. And I know you're freaking out, Caleb. But I see the way you look at me now. You can't tell me you don't feel something. I wanted to deny it, to push him away. But the truth was clawing its way out. I don't know what I feel, I admitted, my voice raw. I've never thought about guys like that. Not until you. His eyes softened, and he reached for my hand, his fingers warm against mine. Then let's figure it out. Together. For a moment, I let myself hold his hand, let myself feel the weight of it. But then reality crashed in Mia. His parents. The life I'd built. I pulled away, standing up. I can't do this. Ethan. Not like this. Not when it could ruin everything. He stood too, his face a mix of hurt and determination. You're not ruining anything. You're just scared of being honest with yourself. I turned away, my heart pounding, and walked back to Mia's alone. But his words followed me, echoing in my head all night. The next day, Mia noticed something was off. You and Ethan fighting or something? She asked as we folded napkins for the rehearsal dinner. I froze. What? No. Why? She shrugged, but her eyes were sharp. He's been weird since you got here. And you're not exactly yourself either. I mumbled something about being tired and changed the subject. But her words gnawed at me. Was it that obvious? Was I that transparent? That night, at the rehearsal dinner, Ethan sat across from me, his smile forced as he chatted with Mia's future in-laws. I tried to focus on the conversation, but my eyes kept drifting to him, his hands, his laugh, the way he caught my gaze and held it. By the time dessert was served, I couldn't take it anymore. I excused myself and slipped outside, needing air. Ethan followed, because of course he did. You can't keep running, Caleb, he said, his voice low and urgent. You're going to have to face this eventually. I spun to face him, my frustration boiling over. And what if I don't want to? What if I'm not ready to blow up my life for something I don't even understand? He stepped closer, his eyes blazing. Then you're lying to yourself. And you're lying to me. Before I could stop myself, I grabbed his shirt and pulled him in, kissing him hard. It was desperate, messy, all teeth and heat. And for a moment, nothing else mattered. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer, and I felt like I was drowning in him. Then a gasp cut through the night. We broke apart, and there was Mia, standing frozen in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock. Mia, I said, my voice hoarse. But she was already turning away, her heels clicking against the pavement as she stormed back inside. Ethan's face was pale, his breath uneven, but he didn't let go of my hand. Caleb, he whispered, we have to talk to her. I nodded, my stomach twisting. This was the moment I'd been dreading, the moment everything fell apart. We followed Mia into the venue, where the rehearsal dinner was still buzzing with oblivious guests. She was in the corner, her arms crossed, her eyes red but fierce. Mia, please, I started. But she held up a hand. Don't. She snapped. How long has this been going on? Behind my back. It's not like that, Ethan said, stepping forward. Mia, I've had feelings for Caleb for years. But nothing happened until tonight. I swear. Her eyes flicked between us, searching for the truth. Years, she said, her voice breaking. You've been in love with my best friend for years. And you never told me. Ethan flinched. I didn't know how. I didn't want to mess things up. And you? She turned to me, her gaze cutting. What's your excuse? Caleb, you're supposed to be my friend. I didn't know, I said, the words spilling out. I didn't know how I felt until recently. Mia, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. She laughed. A bitter sound. Hurt me? You think this is just about me? What about Mom and Dad? What about this town? You think they're going to clap for you too and throw you a parade? I don't care about them, Ethan said, his voice steady. I care about Caleb. And I care about you. I want you to be okay with this. But I'm not going to apologize for who I am. Mia's expression softened, just for a moment. But then she shook her head. I need time, she said, and walked away, leaving us standing there, exposed and raw. The rest of the night was a blur. Ethan and I didn't talk much, but we stayed close, like we were anchoring each other. When the dinner ended, I drove him back to Mia's. The silence between us heavy but not uncomfortable. At the house, he turned to me, his eyes soft. I don't regret it, he said. The kiss. Telling you. Any of it. I reached for his hand, my heart pounding. I don't either. The next morning, Mia was waiting for me in the kitchen, her coffee untouched. I'm not okay with this, she said, her voice quieter now. Not yet. But I don't hate you, Caleb. And I don't hate Ethan. I need to understand. I nodded, relief flooding me. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. She gave me a small, shaky smile. You better not. You're still my best friend. The wedding went off without a hitch, though Mia kept her distance. Ethan and I stole moments when we could have brush of hands. A shared glance, but we didn't push it. We knew this was bigger than us, that it would take time to rebuild what we'd broken. A week later, I was back in Chicago, but Ethan and I talked every day. Texts, calls, late-night FaceTimes where we'd laugh and argue and confess things we'd never said out loud before. He told me about coming out to his parents, how they'd been shocked but hadn't disowned him. I told him about the guys I'd noticed in college but never let myself think about. It was slow, messy, but it was real. One weekend, Ethan drove up to Chicago, showing up at my apartment with that same shy smile from the lake. I missed you, he said, and I pulled him into a kiss that felt like coming home. We're still figuring it out, me. Ethan, Mia, this new version of who we are. It's not perfect, and it's not easy. There are days when the world feels too heavy, when the whispers of small-town gossip or the weight of my own doubts threaten to pull us under. But then Ethan looks at me, with those hazel eyes that see right through me, and I know we'll be okay. Because real love isn't about being fearless. It's about being scared and showing up anyway. And for Ethan, I'll show up every damn day.